So I'm going to go through our little Simpson drawing that in class we've already started. And if you've already started, you can fast forward through the portion of this video. If you have not started this though, follow along here. I'm just typing in Simpsons and I'm going to hit enter, Google searching it. I'm going to click on images. This is what we all did in class already. And then here's the image that we chose, this one of Homer just going kind of woohoo. And so I'm going to then right click or control click as needed. And so that this then allows me to then save this image. Don't want to save the link, want to save the image here. And I'm going to just save it here to downloads. That way it makes it just super easy for me to find it later. So there it is, boom, save to downloads. Then I come over to animate. In animate, I'm going to choose a full HD. So that's 1920 by 1080. And I'm going to hit create. So this is going to create this stage for us, hopefully here. And there it goes. Remember, command minus zooms out, command plus zooms in, and then pressing and holding the space bar down will temporarily access that hand tool as we move through this. All right. Now, one thing I'm going to do real quick is I'm going to come here under Window, and I'm going to choose a different workspace. The workspace I'm going to choose to use is this classic workspace. It just moves the timeline up here. It's something I'm a little more familiar with, as well as having the toolbar over here on my far left, and then just the panels and palettes on the right, so that everything's not over there. All right, so here I'm on layer 1. I'm going to go ahead and double click on that to name this layer, and I'm going to just call it background image, or I could even call it just reference image. Since that's kind of going to be what it is, we're just going to use it as a reference. And it says, hey, special characters not permitted in the layer names. What that is referring to is there's just a space there, and it thinks that's a special character. So I hit OK, and that will take that space out and put a underscore in there. I've clicked the little lock to lock it, but I need to unlock it now. I need to put the image on it. So first thing I need to do to put that image on is simply come under File, Import to the stage, and then I'm going to navigate my way here to the Downloads folder. Then you can see my Downloads folder, I've got quite a bit, but there is that Simpson image. And then I'm going to paste it in there. Now, right now it's kind of small. I want to make it at least where it fills that height of it. So I'm going to come over here and get my free transform tool, Q. And then with that, I'm going to press and hold down the Shift key. Holding the Shift key will constrain it, and it'll come out from that little access point right there at the center. And I don't need it to fill the whole screen. I just want it to fill the vertical height and width for right now. Okay, and that works for me. And then I can lock that layer. I'm done with that layer. I'm going to add a new layer in here. And what I'm going to call this layer is, I can call it my symbol layer, or assembled, because, well, honestly, that's what we're doing. Assembled parts. We'll call it that. That way, that's a pretty descriptive layer. And then I'm going to create another layer onto it. Again, it's talking to that. I'm going to hit Don't Show Again. That way, this doesn't pop up every time I put a space there. It just automatically will correct it for me. Uh-oh. My animate closed down, so I'm going to pause the video. Let's see if we have anything saved at all. Nope, doesn't even look like it even saved at all, so always a good thing to start saving. So I'm going to hit create again here, and I'm going to just walk you through real quickly again. So from here, I went to see, it says, nope, I'm going to just say ignore it, don't report it. It's not going to do any good right now. Don't send. File, import to the stage. Again, just doing this real quick because mine did not save. And so I'm going to hit that, open, Q to get that. Free transform it up here, the size wise, right? Make sure it just kind of goes to that edge. I'm going to name that layer. I'm going to call it reference image. I'm going to lock it. It's going to say, hey, don't show again. Let's hit OK. Good. Now, I see a little asterisk right here. See, it says untitled and a little asterisk. That's just simply because this file has not been saved. So that, since I've done some work here, let me go ahead and save this. I can save it to documents or I can save it to desktop. Either way, just as long as you know what it is. And I can just call it, let's call it Homer Simpson. And it has that FLA, which is a Flash file, which is the native Animate, because it used to be Adobe Flash or it used to be Macromedia Flash. And then I'm going to hit save. Notice that little asterisk has gone away and the file name's changed there. That way, if this closed down again, I can quickly at least come back to where I last left off. So we created 2 additional layers. We named one here. We named it simply Assembled Parts. I'm going to lock that one down because we don't have anything assembled yet. Notice it automatically fixed that. And then this one I'm going to call Drawing. That way this is where you're actually drawing on. So from here what I'm going to do is come through and I'm going to choose to do some features here. And it says, hey, some controllability. Y'all don't have any of this, so I'm going to just hit deny as well for right now. I'm going to hit this and just choose to have white as my fill color. My stroke, I'm going to change to black. I'm going to come over here for the properties of this. And you can see I choose my rectangle tool. And then I get my stroke properties. And I'm going to set that to about 6 or so. 6 to 7, somewhere in that range. One thing I do want to point out, always make sure this object drawing mode is off. If you accidentally click this and turn this on, it will mess stuff up. Do not use this object drawing mode. Have it turned off. Okay, so hopefully I've made that emphasized enough. Over here, I'm going to just simply click and drag out a rectangle. Then I'm going to get V. That's my black move tool or selection tool. And then I can come over one of the points and I'm going to just click and drag these little points out, creating this kind of trapezoidal shape here and filling in these points. Now, if it starts to snap too much there, I can come here under, I believe it's under View Snapping, and I can turn off some of these snapping things. So if it's snapping too much, bitmaps to pixels and snapping to objects and snapping here, snapping there. So if you need to turn some of that snapping off, please do so. That way it doesn't snap too much when you're trying to do this. Again, that was Command plus to zoom in there, but notice now I can move this around. No fear of snapping. I don't have to worry about that snapping. I'm going to put those points right at his armpit there. Then all I need to do is take this little curve line and see it's between the 2 points, and then I can curve it out for his belly. I can fine tune that little point, this little point, just add a slight little curve here, and then from there. So next thing what I'm going to do is continue to look for points. So I can see, hey, from this point, and I move over the outside edge, probably the next point is going to be right about there. So in between these 2 points, I'm going to come and grab this line. Now, if I just start grabbing now, it's just a curved line, right? Well, I said I needed to add a point. So I'm going to press and hold the Command key down, okay? Command, and then I'm going to click and drag over. And you see now that adds a point. So instead of a curve, it adds a straight line there, and I can position that little point right there. Then I can adjust this little curve portion. Again, I'm going to look from this point, okay? And I'm going to look and follow this white outline of the shirt, and I notice right about there I need a point. So I'm going to come back, press and hold the Command key down, click and drag it out, and then I'm going to adjust that. Okay. If I need to come back and fine tune where any of this is, I can just simply do that as such. I know I'm going to need another point. It's probably hidden here. Let me move back and see. Yep, I can see there's that point where I need that, and that's a pretty straight line there. So then I could do another straight point right there. And then I can probably pull back and see, hey, I need one right there. So I'm just holding the Command key down and I'm adding these points into here. I can see right about here, top of his collar, I'd need another one. Now this, I can see it has just a slight little curve to it, just to give a little something to it there, right? I can look back, that really doesn't have much of a curve, but it does have a little bit of one maybe. And if I needed to, I could look at anything else that's there. Again, I'm going to press Command. I can see all the way over here to where his arm's kind of hitting his shoulder through there, just past his neck. That has a little bit of a curve to it, right? So I'm going to move that line up. I'm going to come out here and I can see, hey, this kind of follows to that and then it kind of curves from there. So if I needed, I could say, hey, I need a point right there, right where it touches his arm, and then I'm going to curve this out just a little bit right there. Then I can press the command again, and I'm just going to continue through this, pressing command, right? Pressing command as needed to add a point, and I could say, hey, I really need that point right there, but there's a point right there on the shirt, right? So I can kind of see that. I can pull this little section of the line back and see that his shirt does kind of have a little bit of a curve right there. I need another point out here. So to do that, I'm going to press command. Now this may collapse onto itself, right? If I went back this way, you can see it starts collapsing onto itself. I don't want to do that if I can help it. So I'm going to have to push it right there to that limit, and then I can kind of pull this back and out. So there's the white portion of Homer's shirt. I'm going to select it. To select it, I can either double click so that I have the stroke and the fill, or what I prefer to do typically is click and drag out a selection box there around it. Okay, now I don't think I have the keyboard set up on this computer, but otherwise I'd press F8. Well, you notice when I press F8, it opens iTunes because it's trying to do the play or pause. Well, I don't want iTunes, right? So what I have to do is come here under System Preferences. Under System Preferences, I'm going to choose Keyboard, and then I'm going to say use F1, F2, etc. keys as standard function keys. So I'm going to press that. That then allows me to choose this F8, which is convert to a symbol. So with that selected, I'm going to choose F8, convert to a symbol, and I'm going to say shirt underscore, and then I could either call it wide or base or something along those lines. And now you can see that has that little line to it, and it has made it into a symbol. Now here we have assembled parts. Well, we're going to call that a part for right now. So I'm going to go ahead and select it and go Command X, which is cut. So now it's actually gone. And then I'm going to move down to this assembled parts layer, and what I'm going to choose is this paste in place, and you can see it has Shift, Command, and V. So it's Shift, Command, V, and that will then paste that shirt in place as needed, right? So I can paste it in place there. Now I have that keyboard shortcut using for something else, right? So I have it used for another app that I'm going to turn off real quick on this computer. So let me go do that real fast here. I can turn this application off. I don't want it running, at least while I'm showing you all this video. So I'm going to just show that, turn that little application off. That way I can fine tune and use that Command Shift V for this purpose. I'm going to lock that layer, and then I can come over to the I column and hide that layer. So that hides that assembled shirt. That's why I moved it on there to that other layer. Now I'm going to start drawing the lines. So I'm going to get my line tool. I already have black as my stroke, and I already have it set to 6. I'm currently on that assembled part. So if I pull my mouse out, you're going to see it actually has that little nope, can't do it sign to that pencil there. So I cannot draw on this layer. Why? Because I've got it locked. That's why we have a drawing layer. This is where we're going to draw. And all I'm going to do is draw these interior lines to this. So you can see I'm actually creating a line here, right? And it has 2 points to it. So I'm going to zoom in here real quick so you can see this. I've got 1 point right there. I'm going to have the other point come out here. And then to that, I can then push in and get that slight little curve and bend to that little line. Okay? The line tool has a keyboard shortcut of in. So I can just press in, come back over. Okay? I need to do another line here for this big long curvature. So I'm going to just, boom, click where I want it to start, click where I want it to end, press V, that switch over to that selection tool, and then I can pull it in place. Again, in, start, end right there, V. Now I need to add a point there because it's not just a curved line, it's actually got a kind of more of a straight line with a point there. So I need to add a point. Same like we did when we were doing the whole shape. When I'm doing this line, I can add a point there by pressing Command and clicking and dragging, And you can kind of see that falls right there in place. Adjust my little start point and all looks good. In, again, this has a little short segment right here of his shirt. Again, V if I need to adjust where it starts and where it stops. Okay, I've got a little bit more of a complex. It kind of comes down here, turns, and then shape there. So this, again, in, I'm going to have where it starts, and I'm going to have to where it stops right down there. Then I can press V to get that little tool. I can then bend out one little point kind of right there at the top, and then maybe another down here, and then I can add just a slight little bit of curve there and a slight little bit of curve there. Okay, again, in, here's where it starts. Oh, it's kind of off my screen here. I'm going to press that space bar, hold it down. Okay, I can press V and adjust as needed. There it goes all the way down, and then I can add that curvature to it. Okay, again, one little small section right here, so I'm going to just click a little small section of line right there as needed, and it does have a little slight bend to it. Okay, and then I can zoom back out, and I believe we just hit all the interior lines of Homer's shirt. Again, we're on that drawing layer. I'm going to click and drag out a selection, because these you can't just double click on it and it select everything. You could go click, select, hold the shift key, hold the shift key, hold the shift key, and select every little, but it's so much easier to just click, drag out a selection. I know I've got all those little lines now, right? And then I can press that F8, shirt, underscore lines, hit OK, Command X, that cuts them off of this layer, right? I'm then going to show my shirt and unlock this, select that layer, then I can do that Command Shift V, will paste them perfectly in place. Now, I may need to adjust the little drawings that I did, so let's take a look here. Yep, I see a few little areas that I need to adjust a few things within the symbol. So currently I'm in scene 1. To correct this symbol, what I need to do is double click into it, okay? Then I can come up and adjust where that line meets the exterior line that we drew, right? I may need to do just a touch of cleanup right there, a little bit right here where I can just bend that line in a little bit better. I can see I need to do a little touch of cleanup there, as well as this line coming down to that point so that they come into connection. And then again, even here. So a little bit of tweaking and fine tuning to the little lines that I drew, the endpoints, where they started and where they stopped. Then from here, I'll click back to scene 1. Okay, and that looks so much better and cleaner now. And then I will lock that layer. Okay, so I'm locking that layer. That prevents me from messing up. Okay, I'm going to zoom out real quick. Now we need to draw the arm. Okay, so currently my reference image layer is locked, right? So if I chose my color picker and came out here, it may or may not select this. So if I'm on that layer and I try to select it with it being locked, it may not select. You may have to unlock. Okay, so that's one thing to help. But otherwise, I can move my selection tool out here and select that color of Homer's forearm. I'm going to start with a rectangle. Okay, I'm going to leave my stroke to where it needs to be. I'm going to come back to my drawing layer and I'm going to click and draw out a rectangle. Press V. V gets that selection tool. Then I can just start again with my points. There's one point, there's another point. So I'm going to do those 2 points, and then I can move this up to match up to what we had with the shirt. Okay, I'm going to move this. He's pretty straight from that point all the way to there on his arm. Maybe a slight curve just because of the way he has his arm up in the air. And then all the way up here with this point as well to that point of the wrist. You can see this curves out a little bit since that other side curved in a little bit. You can kind of see where that point sits. Now we need to do the little hand, right? Again, we're doing the color. We're not worrying about these lines for his fingers right now. But what I can see is, hey, from this point all the way around to where that would almost be the top of the knuckle right in between the 2 fingers, That's the next point. So I'm going to click in between the segment here, right? In between the line, and then drag it up. Then I can click on that segment of line, and you can see I can kind of maneuver that over into place. If I needed to, and I probably should, I can come back and add another point over here. See how this line isn't quite going over as good as I would like, as zoomed in as I am? So I can, if needed, pull that little bit of thing out right over there. I can release that one point and try to pull it out a little more, or I could add another point if needed. Okay? Command, another point here. I'm going to go ahead and just add these points because I can see them real quick and easy there. So I can see I've got a little bit for his thumb right here, a little bit for his, probably be his index finger, and a little bit for his middle finger. Okay? So that's how we can do that. Okay? Again, selection that. Now, notice I'm clicking and dragging out a huge selection. It's not selecting the shirt or anything else because those are all on a separate layer. F8, I'm going to call this left underscore arm underscore, we can call it skin if you want. Command X, that cuts it. Back to my assembled, Command Shift V, paste it in place, lock it, and then I'm going to go ahead and hide it because I need to be able to see those little lines to it all, right? So you can kind of see, I need to be able to see these lines. So that hides it, shows my little reference to it. All right. Press in. Notice I get the little, hey, you can't do it. What does that mean? That means I'm on a locked layer. That's a good thing. Choose back my drawing tool. And then what I'm going to do is just draw out these little lines. Again, pressing on them, and I can just kind of control where they go. All right, here's the start to this. I may just have a point right out here where it kind of connects up between the two. V, I could pull that. Okay, again, in, select here. I'm going to go back to that point. V, again, in, click, drag. V to kind of curve it a little bit. I don't need to have this go to the outside. We already took care of that when we were drawing that outside of his arm, right? So we're just drawing these interior lines to this. May need to fine tune that placement a little bit. Then I've got two more over here real quickly. Click, drag, that just makes a straight line. We want it curved. I can pull it down to curve it. Again, this point all the way over to that point. V, I can then manipulate this into place, and you can see, hey, well, where that's at, I probably need to add one additional point to that. So let me just zoom in a little bit, see if I can see where these things are, right? See, there's a little segment of line. I don't know what happened there. So let me just delete that little portion if needed. There's the line I want to work with. So I can maneuver where that kind of joins in. It may be easiest for me just to come back and press Command, add another point right there, take this little portion of that line right there, right? Adjust. And then this, I want to adjust. That way it creates that nice smooth look to it all. Okay? Again, select that. F8. Left underscore arm underscore lines. Command X. Go back down to my assembled parts. Command Shift V, paste it in place, zoom in a little bit. I need to do a little cleanup here and a few other spots. So on that symbol, I double click. Now I'm no longer in scene 1, but I'm editing the symbol. I click there to deselect real quick because it's all selected. And then I can kind of fine tune where these points all come together, right? And so, see, I need to smooth that out just ever so slightly there with that point the way it is. This I want to pull just over so it don't have quite that little gap into it, and that just out a little bit. Okay, that looks good from that point. I click back out. I can see how they do all connect up, look a little nicer, cleaner, smoother for me. Again, lock it, hide it if we want, and then we need to move on to the next arm. So let's go do the next arm. So this is where we about left off in class, both my third and fourth period classes from the other day. It's the exact same process, okay? So we're going to just keep going with this. I've got the skin tone, click, drag out a rectangle, and I'm just going to keep moving through this. Here, though, I'm just going to click on a point. Notice I've got a couple of points here, though. So I'm just going to start here, and then I'm going to work my way out. So I'm going to zoom in real quick. I press and hold that space bar down to get that hand tool temporarily, and I can move that out. Now I can see I need to move this out just a little bit more from where that point was. So to do that, I can press that command key as needed, and I'm going to press and kind of join it to that point of the shirt. And I think we may have needed to do that over here. Actually, that looks a little bit straighter and nicer, cleaner over there. Okay, so I can zoom out just a little bit. Again, the points of the wrist roughly. I can see, hey, do I need to bend this in a little bit like we did the other arm? Take this point. This probably goes way up here to where his wrist would be. And then I can just gently bend that out as well. Okay. From here, we're going to do the hand, the little fingers again. Command. I can click. Drag out to set those points. Nope, got to get the line. Notice when I do that, I'm not over it. When I get that little curved line, now I can click and drag that piece of that line. Click, drag that piece of that line. And we may need another one over here, we'll see. We'll see. That actually, yeah, see, I probably need another little point right back over here on this curve, just to kind of pull it out a little bit. And then add a little additional curve out to that, up here, here, and then a little bit for a thumb. Okay, from there, I'm going to select it. Again, F8. This one I'm going to call, as you might imagine, right arm underscore skin. Command X, that cuts it. Back down here, Command Shift V, and this time I'm going to hide that arm. Why do I want to hide that arm? One, I can tell right there when I hit it, I didn't have the layer changed. So when I pasted it, I actually pasted it back onto the drawing layer. That's fine. I can hit that Command X again. Let me try this again. Now let me select that layer. You can see now that layer is highlighted. Command Shift V. Now it pastes in place. Click. And then hide, and it goes away. So that's how I can tell that that's what happened there. Okay, zoom in again. This time we're just doing the little lines for the arm. Okay, again, in, get you that line tool. Notice I got, again, this little, nope, something's wrong. Well, that's because I didn't switch layers back to my drawing layer. That's fine. It's just you need to be able to know and problem solve what's going on with the program and not panic about it, right? So there's that little section of line. I need a couple of points here, right? So again, in, I could literally have this go from here all the way back over here, but I don't know that I'm going to be able to do this in one nice clean curve. So you can see if I need to, I can take that to that position, right? And what I really need to add there is a point, right? So I can click, drag out a point there and a point there so that this kind of will follow along with that knuckle in through there. And then I might be able to, nope, still need to add a point because when I look at this, it's just not going to allow me to curve that line that well. So I can click, add a point straight out to the center there, and then it allows me to do a nice curve to that line, joining back up with that segment. You can kind of see right there, that segment, and then that segment, all in through this, right? So we got that in. V, in. So I'm just switching between that line tool and this. You know, I could try all the way around there again, kind of like we did before, but I know I'm going to have to add some additional points into it. So I go ahead and pressing the command key down if I get this right. And that should then enable where we're able to get the V right with the command tool. That adds a point in through there, and I can kind of come in to where that joins into that other line. I'm going to click and drag this over. Yep, I probably need to add one additional point right there just for that little piece. Try to smooth it a little better. and then I need one little piece of line right there again. From start to end, V, drag it back just a little bit. Maybe I need to drag this point, this segment up a little as well. Okay. I think I got them all. I can select them. I can see it. Yep, got them all. F8, right, arm, and then we'll call that lines. Okay, Command X. Back here under my assembled parts, select that layer, Command Shift V, paste it, double click into the symbol. Since it's these lines, you can see I need to do a little touch up, clean up to some things. I need to drag that kind of right over to where that kind of fits in there. That actually looks pretty good right there. I could clean this up right in through there just a touch. This one needs to extend just a little further. Some of these where I created the points, you can see I need to kind of move it to make it look just a little more rounded into it, and then pull that back so that it kind of joins in, gives it a little smoother, cleaner look. See, here's that point as well. So I may have to move this or move it back this other way, and then kind of move this out a little bit to get a little cleaner curvature to that line. So I'm looking at that point right in through there. Same thing kind of here. I may just kind of come back and pull that line just a little bit this way. Give a little cleaner, little smoother look to it all. Okay, can zoom back out, looks a little better. Click back here, everything looks good, and we're good to go. So just to kind of show you where we're at right now, center it just with Command 0, Command minus to zoom out just a little bit. If I hid my reference image, you can see that's where we're at with Homer right now. So we've got his shirt in both his arms. Okay, we will expose that again, lock that other assembled parts layer, and just continue on from here. So our next shape is going to be the base of his face and neck. So again, we're going to just keep with that skin tone. Get my good old rectangle tool here. Again, you notice when I drag out over here, nope, it says I can't do it. Why? I go to my layers palette, it's locked. That's why we're preventing ourselves from goofing up. You've got to take the time to set yourself up for success. Now I'm going to pull this down right here to that point of his neck. And I'm going to go ahead and pull this across to that point of his neck. Now I know I've got a couple of other points in here I need to do. So let me zoom in, space bar holding it down so I can get that hand tool. Excuse me. And then what I can do is press that Command key, and I can start moving up and see, hey, I can see that shirt collar right there. And I'm going to move this line just a little bit, tweak it just a little bit in its position. And that way that kind of follows with that. I need another point. Okay, so I have this point here. I need another point straight down here. And then I need to curve that ever so slightly right there. Okay, his mouth, we're going to just take some liberties here. We're not going to be dealing with this color right now. What we're going to do is just press Command and come out, and we see a point right there, and then a point right underneath his eye, right? And then there's a little curvature for that portion of the cheek. Okay, right here, his little, right above his eye here, his brow bone. So I'm going to put Command, a little point right there, another one for that point, and then I can pull that out. Now this head, it's a big, huge curve. I'm going to just take this line. It probably curves back to that point, right? And I'm probably going to need a point probably in the center just to make it. And if I put it right where that hair follicle is, that'll help hide any little imperfections within it. And then I can come and drag that out. Drag this out over here, get a nice smooth shape. You can see where that is. Need to pull it just back in just ever so slightly there, and maybe push that out a little more and out just a little more. Then I think there was some shape to the head back over here. Let's see. So what I'm going to do is just press Command. Nope, he does not have much shape at all to the back of his head. He does have it pulled in ever so slightly. So I'm going to just come down here to his ear, where his ear should be. And then I can just kind of move that line just ever so slightly back in, kind of curving for the back of his head there. So we had a point there where it kind of started rounded back out. We've got his ear we need to do. So I'm going to press Command again if I need to, and I do. And I need to add a point there, and then Command again to come back to where that kind of connects up to his neck. Add a little curvature to the ear, both the top and the bottom, and that way we get a nice smooth shape to it. Okay, and I can zoom back out. I can take a look, see if I need to tweak any little things to it. Select it, F8, and I'm going to call head underscore skin. All right, again, Command X selects it. Okay, back here, Command Shift V, paste it, lock, and now I need to hide it, so I can hide it. Now, again, this happened before. Why, when I go to hide it, does it not hide? What is that telling me? That's telling me, hey, it's really not on this assembled parts layer. It's still back up here on my drawing layer. So again, Command X, let's try this again. Back over here. Now I've got that assembled part selected, Command Shift V. Now when I hide it, it actually hides it. That's what we want to see. We want to be able to have it hidden. Okay? So let's go ahead and do a few lines to this, and we'll do that. We'll do the hair and the little inner portion of the ear. We can go ahead and do the nose as well, and then we'll paste those on. Then we'll come back, do the eyes, and then we'll do the mouth shape. Okay, so let's go ahead and do that. We've done it before. On my drawing layer, here's a little bit of hair right there to there. And while I've got the tool, I'm going to go ahead and do a little bit of hair to there to there. Press V. I'm going to curve that up. If I need to, I can press Command and add a point. If that makes it a little easier just to add that one additional point. I will say the fewer points that you add, see how this tried connecting it all up? And that's not good. So I've got to delete that out maybe. And maybe I want to just start over. And that's fine. If you need to start over, start over. Heck, it's not the end of the world. It's because these are crossing over here, right? So I'm going to just click, drag that. Let's try the back hair first. Hey, that did really nice and smooth to it, right? Yeah, and I could just get the V and kind of tweak it ever so slightly. If I needed to, I could come in at a point like we were talking about before, but that does it nice clean, right? Again, because these hairs aren't going to necessarily be, when I release this all and let it go, it's going to start trying to form in there. So you can kind of see, hey, I need to tweak that. See how that created a point when I released it? So that enables me then to come back, pull this actually down to a scalp. I need to pull that little section right there down just a little bit. And if I needed to, because I see that's not lining up really good right in through there, I'm going to press and hold the Command key down. That'll add a point. And then I can switch back and kind of come through and clean this up just a little better. And maybe even a little better at this section too. Okay, so those two little hairs right there, you can see it actually made quite a few different little segments of line. It created a segment here and here and here, and we actually had a couple there even, so different segments. Okay. All right, we're going to come over here. Again, I can just click, right, with that End tool, right, click, drag out a line to it. You can already see. I may have one already there. Yep, see, I already had one there, and that's fine. I can just take this one and drag that point back over here. Kind of looks like an M. So if you wanted, I could really take all of this, and I could just go in, which is that line tool, and go from there to there, because realistically, that's the start, that's the end. That's one way to think of it, right? And then just press Command, drag it up for the top, press Command, drag it down for the bottom, and then up for the top, and then come back add just a little bit of bend to these as needed, just to give it that little Homer Simpson character. And then that kind of breaks that up. Okay, let's do the little, looks like almost a backward H kind of in through here. So again, in, get the right tool here. I'm going to just click on that portion to that portion. I can press Command with the selection tool. That adds a point. Drag it up since it's a little rounded in through there now. Yep. Adjust, fine tune, tweak it as needed. In, and then drag it down to where it mates back up into that. And you can kind of see there it is. Okay. Since we're going to have a shape for the mouth, we'll have to that point, but we won't have this little line, although this little line could be formed by our eyes. So let's just leave it at that, I think, for now. We may need to come back and do some additional little sections to this. I'm dragging. You notice that I clicked it and dragged it. So I'm going to just click and drag all of my hair. So I need to get all that hair up at the top. I don't want to cut any off, but I also need to get this ear portion. So I'm going to just shift and select that. So I've got those lines, right? F8, we called it head underscore. I'm going to call it lines for right now. We may have to add some to this. Command X, unlock those two things. Command Shift V, and it pastes it in there. And you can kind of see it. All right. We're going to lock that down, and then we need to hide it again. So now let's come do the eyes. Okay, we're going to go back to our drawing layer. Now the eyes, we want to just switch it back to white. Okay, same white as we did with the shirt, right? And these, though, I'm going to do a circle kind of for them, and they're close to being a circle. Now you notice my little color change there. Got to change it back to white. There we go. So we want to do a shape to it. Now notice if I push the space bar, that doesn't really do anything. Hold shift, that constrains it. But I'm going to tell you right now, those are not perfect circles. So what I'm doing is just clicking, dragging it out, and I'm going to drag it to where that bottom section right there kind of matches up. Then I'm going to press V, right, and that gets that move tool. And I'm going to come over just one little segment of the line, and I'm going to just start kind of playing with this circle to where it comes in. And now notice I grabbed the fill there. Don't want to do that. I want to grab that line, the exterior of it, right? And you can kind of see I'm just kind of playing with this, kind of like it's almost clay, molding it around, forming the shape to it, if you would. Kind of gets that very organic feel to it right there. If I need to, I could select it, even move it out. Hey, that looks pretty darn close right there. I need to have a little more roundness up to the top. And if I needed to, I could even hide that, but that kind of hides everything, so we don't want to do that. One thing to notice when I hide, something's showing over here. That means this is on the wrong layer. This is on my drawing layer, so I need to fix that in a minute here. So I can see, hey, I need to move this little bit out, make a little more rounded effect to it, a little less oblong looking shape to it, a little bit more in here. And I think that looks pretty good there. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and do my oval tool again. Start it. Again, it's just to get that base shape going, right? I can pull this out over here. I can see though, hey, I'm going to need to add some points into this. So I can see there's a clear point, right? Right there where his nose and cheek kind of meet up. So I can drag that out. And then I can kind of curve this little portion around his nose. I can curve this back down and around here, right? So you can kind of see how I can play with that, manipulate and curve it. Okay, I can see I've got another clear point over here. So I'm going to press Command and drag out that to where that matches up to that other eye. Again, I'm going to kind of play with this line just a little bit here, and you can kind of see how I maneuver it and manipulate it in to where it kind of wraps around his nose. I need to get a little more curve right there out of that. So I need to work on that little section, right? So I'm going to move that to probably about there where his top part of his nose is straight there, and then kind of come in through and work to create that rounded portion of his nose right in through there. Then we want to take this and start moving it back up into that, but see, that kind of creates a point there, so it might be easier for me to click and drag out a point and then come and move this portion of this line and see what I can do to kind of manipulate and move it right there. Notice some of this you got to kind of, lack of anything better to say, kind of caress it in, finesse it into shape here, this line, right, as you start forming his other eye here. Okay, so we're just kind of getting that other eye just a little bit into shape, and I think those look pretty good. If I needed to, I could hide. Hey, let me see what they look like before and after. I think mine might be a touch bigger. It's hard to kind of tell. It does shift just ever so slightly there. Let me kind of move that just a little bit there. There's that point. Let me move that in just a touch. And I think that looks just fine. We'll see a little bit more when we come through here in a minute. So I'm going to select those. Okay, select those eyes. F8 eyes underscore, and I'm going to just call it white because that's the white portion of the eyes. Command X. Now, here's what I'm going to actually do. I'm going to select, I had some lines over here that we had made it a symbol too. I'm going to move those off as well. Command X. Then I'm going to move them back down here, and Command Shift V. It'll paste those lines for that hand and those eyes all in the right spot. And then I can hide them. Now, do you see what happened here? Where did I paste them? I pasted them back on that drawing layer again. So you got to be careful with that. It's a couple times I've made that same mistake. So I need to make sure that I'm doing them in the right spot. Okay, so now they go away. Okay, we've got some little black dots for his actual little pupils. So I'm going to just choose black as a fill. Okay, and if I needed to, again, that oval tool, make sure I'm on my drawing layer, little black dots. I can hold the shift key down it. That way that does make them a little bit more perfect little circles. There's one. I'm going to use that Alt or Option with it all selected. And notice this one's ever so slightly smaller because, well, it helps gives us that little sense of size. So I can press Q or get that free transform tool. Now, sometimes when you get that free transform tool, you got to zoom in a little bit, right? And then what you can do is just gently move it in ever so slightly a little smaller. Why? Because it's farther away. That's the way distance works, right? Select both of those, F8, I underscore pupil, right? Sure. Command X, didn't cut it. I got to select it. I had the other tool, Command X. Now I got them cut. Select that layer, Command Shift V. Now they pasted in place. Lock them down. All right. So if I wanted, I could hide that background, turn on that. Whoa, look at Homer. He needs a mouth though, doesn't he? He's missing that because that helps form the shape of his nose, and it gets you that woohoo. So we're almost done, so let's keep trucking along here. Let's look back. Last thing we need to, well, almost the last thing we need to do is do his mouth shape. So again, fill color, select it there. Okay, so I got that fill color. This, I can start with an oval since that's what it looks most like to me. I'm going to click on the drawing, and I'm going to click and just drag it out. Again, we'll worry about the little opening to the mouth in just a minute. Let's kind of do his little beard section here. It kind of gives him that little scruffy beard that he has. And again, I'm just starting to place this into shape. I can maneuver, manipulate. I can tell right there I definitely need a point. I probably need a point back here because it kind of turns different direction on me here. So I'm going to just add a point right in through there for right now, kind of at the base of that nose. And then I'm going to come back and add a point there, and then I'm going to kind of coax that line into shape there. And if I need to, I can kind of play where that point is to give it a little more smoothness to it. I see another little point here. So I'm going to add that up. Now see, there already was kind of this point, but I can kind of relax that point in and move it back and around. We've got from here, and it kind of comes back and around. So let's add another point. We could try it there. Let's see if it'll work. I don't know that it will, but let's see. Yeah, we need to move this point up a little bit. Probably in there. And there we go. We can kind of move it, see where we're at, see where his mouth is actually at. Okay, a point here. Kind of where his lips are kind of getting pursed together. Okay, let's see if we can add another little point here. And pull this out. We may need to do a little finagling with this line and that point. Come back to that point as well. Just adjust a little bit. We need to adjust that little segment of line you can see. Okay, now we've got this big section coming down here. You can kind of see I can do that with really almost not adding a point at all. So that looks pretty good for right now. We can always come back, clean it up after we've made it a symbol. But F8, we'll call this his beard. Let's call that his beard. Okay, Command X, unlock, and select the layer. Command Shift V. Boom, we got his beard in place. Lock, hide it. Now let's do this little mouth shape. Again, that almost looks like just that black little thing we did for his eye. Make sure we're on our drawing layer. Yeah, that's pretty close to it right there. But you can see I've got some little work to do on it. And so what I'm going to do here is actually come in and add some points into this, right? So I'm going to manipulate this as needed. And you can kind of see I'm going to bring this down a little bit over here, a little bit out here and here. I'm going to go ahead and set that point because I know there's a little point right there where it kind of goes up. So you can kind of see I've got that little bit of a point right there. And that way that enables me to have that come in. And then I'm going to go ahead and take that point out. So you can kind of see I've got that little bit. And the reason it's doing it so thick is because of what I had my stroke to. If I need to, I could come back and turn that stroke down a little bit, and that'll get a little finer point to this if needed. So if I need to, that will definitely help me get this a little bit finer segment into here as I kind of come through and start manipulating this. And a little bit more over here. And if I needed to, yep, that looks pretty darn close right there. I can move it back into place. Maybe a little bit more right there, I think, is what I'm needing. So between selecting it, moving it, I can kind of see and get some contrast into it. F8, mouth. Okay, Command X, right? Select my assembled parts, Command Shift V. That pasted in place, right? So let's take a look here again. Here is Homer without the background, with the background. About the only thing we're missing now is highlighting and shadow. So if you were to look here, you can see Homer has a little bit of a shadow going through here and a little bit of highlight. And I'm going to save that for a lesson for next time, but this will take you, this is what you need to complete and submit for Friday. All right, so now you're going to get this ready to turn into me. So here's what you're going to do. You're going to hide your reference image. Excuse me. You're going to turn on your assembled parts. We're going to add one additional layer into it. If I need to, I can turn this back off just to get me a sample color. I'm going to come here and choose that same blue as the background. Now I can hide it if I need to. This layer here is going to be on top of it for the moment, but that's fine. And I want you to draw out a large rectangle that fills over the stage. Doesn't matter, just fill it over the stage. Okay, this, we can call it simply background underscore color. And then I'm going to move it behind my assembled parts. Okay, so you see how he looks there. Then I want you to come here under File, and I want you to choose Export Image. And we're going to export this out as an image file so that you can turn it into me via Canvas. Okay, it opens up this little dialog box here. Currently it's set as a GIF. I want you to change it to a JPEG. All right, so you're going to export this out as a JPEG. Notice when we went from GIF, it's limited to 256 colors. JPEG, it actually changes that and it flattens it down. It doesn't give us any transparency to it, which is good. Okay, you'll come down here. It says, hey, save. Great. Where are we going to save it? I'm saving it just simply HomerSimpson JPEG to the desktop. I'm going to hit save. Then in Canvas, you will find under the desktop, not the FLA file. That you're not going to turn into me. That you're just going to save, because the next portion is going to be where you add the shadowing and the highlights and then return it in. But for this portion, you're going to choose this first version of it. Okay? And then in Canvas, that's what you will turn in. So you'll come to Canvas and you will find this assignment and then turn it in. So that is what is due by the end of Friday. Okay? I'll stop the video there.